It's time for our daily dose of cope. And here we have Mio. This is Chi-Chi Kachiyama's other sister as a special correspondent. She says, Baka, the leopard is eating your face again. And this face is saying, it wasn't supposed to be my face. So many stories to get to. Let's get to it, Mio. This story is going semi-viral. This is a naturalized citizen, and he was picked up by ICE. He was picked up and detained by ICE. I just wanted you to see this picture. He thought he was different. He's a naturalized citizen and thought that he was more special than his undocumented migrant brothers and sisters. So this Trump supporter detained by ICE questions his vote. A Trump supporter in Virginia says he is reconsidering his support for the president after he was racially profiled and targeted by agents with ICE. ICE agents reportedly had their pew-pews drawn as they interrogated and detained Jency Machado, a Manassas resident, along with two other men he was driving home with after work. Machado told NBC News 4 Thursday night that he was not asked to produce documentation proving that he is a U.S. citizen. They just looked at his skin and they just took him in, pulled out the pew-pews and everything. They just got out the car with pew-pews in their hands and said, "Turn off the car, give me the keys, open the window," Machado told Telemundo. Everything was really fast. He said the agents were looking to deport a man who had been reported to reside at Machado's home residence, but he didn't recognize the individual's name. They didn't ask me for any ID. I was telling the officer I could give him my ID, but he said to keep my hands up, not moving. Machado, who shared his real ID, compliant Virginia state driver's license with the news station, continued. And then after that, he told me, get out the car. And then he put the handcuffs on me. And then he went to me and asked how I got into this country. I told him I was an American citizen. And then he looked at his partner as if to say, do you believe this guy? Machado added that the two men he was with were taken into custody, though he did not know the reason why. The whole ordeal has made Machado, a naturalized U.S. citizen, question his faith in the president and his immigration policies. He originally believed that the Trump administration would only target undocumented criminals, but now he's not so sure because you should really believe a con man, fraudster, felon for some strange reason. Anyways, let's move on to the next story. More MAGA voters finding out that they are indeed inefficient, waste, and fraud. Doge job cuts bring pain to Trump heartland. Jennifer Piggott proudly hung a red and blue Trump campaign flag outside her one-story home during the November election race. Now, after she was abruptly fired from her civil service job, her days supporting the president are over. Piggott is among more than 125 people dismissed in February from the Treasury Department's Bureau of Fiscal Service in Parkersburg, West Virginia, unsettling a community that voted overwhelmingly for Republican President Donald Trump. Nobody that I've talked to understood the devastation that having this administration in office would do to our lives. Piggott, who's 47, told Reuters in an interview saying she would not have supported Trump if she knew then what she knows now. As much as I think President Trump is doing wonderful things for the country in some regards, I don't understand this at all. Piggott worked at BFS for 5 years and had recently been promoted. That promotion made her a target as the Trump administration began firing thousands of probationary federal workers, a group that includes new hires, but also existing workers moving from one internal position to another. That's honestly quite sucky. The renunciation of allegiance to Trump by Piggott, a church-going conservative and 3-time Trump voter, comes as political analysts are parsing early signs of a possible backlash in Republican strongholds where the government-slashing efforts of the president and his cost-cutting czar, Leon Scum, are beginning to be felt. So, are they going to be able to go back and unvote? We have to figure that out. A White House spokesman told Reuters that Trump had been given a popular mandate to overhaul the federal government to combat waste, fraud, and abuse. Trump edged out his opponent, Democratic former Vice President Kamala Harris, by 1.5 percentage points in the November contest. I guess these people just didn't know that they were part of waste, fraud, and abuse. West Virginia is also strong Trump country. He won the state in November with 70% of the vote, among his biggest victories. Still, the economic impact of these mass dismissals across America may not be felt immediately. A handful of Republican voters who lost their federal jobs joined Democrats for a rally of more than 100 people protesting the cuts near the two BFS office buildings in Parkersburg last week, cheering on a local union leader as he criticized Trump and Musk while standing next to a large fat cat balloon. Support for Trump's shrinking government can, however, be heard in places around Parkersburg. A middle aged company singing Doge's praises over breakfast at a local diner, a hotel patron saying remote workers deserve to be fired, a young bartender lamenting federal workers' relatively high pay. Like, why do they think that these people are getting so much money, and why do they can't stand remote workers? It's so crazy. In interviews with 36 workers, business owners, and politicians in Parkersburg, which sits at the convergence of two rivers, including the mighty Ohio, nearly all said Trump's focus on cutting government spending was a worthy goal, but most said they knew BFS employees to be hardworking and didn't see them as the right target if the aim was to eliminate waste. Scott Heckert, a Republican who represents parts of Parkersburg in West Virginia state legislature, said that he was worried that the layoffs at BFS, which employs about 2,200 workers in Parkersburg, would devastate the local economy because the workers earn higher than average salaries and because the looming prospect of another round of cuts. He said his daughter-in-law was among those fired and that he was seeking more information on why so many jobs were eliminated in a seemingly indiscriminate manner before he would commit to backing Trump in the future. People voted for Donald Trump to make a change. It's an unfortunate thing in our community that is plagued with many things as it is. So those people over there were supposed to get their faces eaten. Not me, not my daughter-in-law. What? This is a post in the Veterans Politics subreddit. It says, I saw it is time to bring back the BEF. The 72,000 cuts are going to be in non-clinical positions, mostly the lower paid blue collar jobs such as food service workers, maintenance mechanics, housekeeping aides, police officers, and motor vehicle operators. They are overwhelmingly staffed by veterans. So much of that could easily drag the percentage of veteran employees at the VA by double-digit percentage. A lot of them are vulnerable. Housekeeping aides are typically only hired if they are at least 30% disabled. They are trying to purge us from the government. Mark my words, your disability checks and healthcare services will be next. I voted for Trump. And I'm still here saying we need to stand up and be heard. It will be some time before there will be a light at the end of the tunnel economically. In 1932, World War I veterans camped out and protested to receive promised payments and additional benefits. They called themselves the Bonus Expeditionary Force, BEF, and they grew to the size of almost 3 divisions. Herbert Hoover, who Trump himself has said he admires, had the army clear them out, and it was a political grenade. They'd be idiots to make that mistake again. I think many of us should make a pilgrimage to our nation's capital and spend as much time as we can get off work to maintain a around-the-clock presence for as long as possible so we can be heard. And like this person says, you voted for him, knowing how he spoke about McCain, and now you're here on our side. So brave of you. So brave. Some of these people actually believed that he was going to bring down the cost of groceries. This person, Jesse, says, went to Sam's today and got 11 things for the kennel. What cost $365 today used to cost me $200. This is why I voted for Trump. Biden sucked but I actually plan to vote for Trump to get a 3rd term. I'm writing his name in. Okay. All I know is everything was cheaper when he was in the first time. I can't see the future, but I'm betting on Trump. This is the reason why I keep saying these people need to feel pain for 2 to 3 years because they will not learn from their mistakes. Finally, we have Estella. She says, to all my friends, thank you for your replies to my political posts. I appreciate them greatly. I voted for Trump in all 3 elections, but I'm worried about the current situation. I've accepted that there's little I can do. I've decided to focus on living my life happily and avoiding politics. It pains me to see Putin annexing former Soviet satellite countries like Georgia, Crimea, and Ukraine, but there's nothing we can do. I'm stepping away from politics. Y'all, if this is this is so cowardly. This person and all these other MAGA people helped vote this person in. And now this woman can just walk away. That's wild to me, but it's so cowardly and it's expected. I am literally disgusted by so many of these people, and I hope that they really feel the consequences of their vote. Anyways, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about all of this. All of this really does suck, but I hope that it sucks for them just 14 to 137 times more. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, and this post is not a find out season post or a leopards are feasting post because I don't know how any of these people voted. This is just simply speaking to the political climate and the economic and financial insecurity that lots of people are facing because Doge and Trump are coming in, firing everybody, and how their families are responding, how their MAGA families are responding. So this is titled Thrust into Unemployment. Axed federal workers face relatives who celebrate their firing. Scrambling to replace their health insurance and to find new work, some laid off federal workers are running into another unexpected unpleasantry. Relatives cheering their firing. The country's bitter, it says bitterly, but bitter tribal politics are spilling into text chains, social media posts, and heated conversations as Americans absorb the reality of the government's cost cutting measures. Expecting sympathy, some axed workers are finding family and friends who instead are steadfast in their support of what they see as bloated government waste. I've been treated as a public enemy by the government and now it's bleeding into my own family, says 24-year-old Luke Tobin, who was fired last month from his job as a technician with the U.S. Forest Service in Idaho's Nez Perce National Forest. Tobin's job loss sent him scurrying to fill prescriptions before he lost his health insurance and filling out dozens of applications to find whatever work he can, even if it's at a fast food restaurant. But some relatives reacting to his firing as what has to happen to make the government great again has been one of the worst parts of the entire ordeal. You cannot tell me these people are not in a cult. They can't separate their ideology and their politics from supporting their own family and their own loved ones, says Tobin. Kristen Jen got a similar response from members of her family after she learned the National Park Service ranger job she was due to start had been put on hold by billionaire Leon Scum's Department of Government Efficiency hiring freeze. She thinks it's likely the job will be eliminated altogether. As she expressed her disappointment over potentially losing her dream job, some members of her mostly conservative family have unfriended her on social media. Others are giving her the silent treatment. Nearly all favor such cuts, even if she's a victim of them. My life is disintegrating because I can't work in my chosen field, says Jen, 47, from Austin, Texas. Lump on top of that, no support from family. It hits you very hard. Like I will continue to say, these people are a cult. They unfriended her and are not talking to her because she can't work. These people are crazy. The strife has extended to Jen's mother, a former federal employee herself. When she has criticized the administration's actions, her mother simply says she supports the president. She has somehow been convinced that public servants are a parasite and unproductive, even though she was a public servant. And her daughter is a public servant. Oh my gosh. These people are crazy. The federal job cuts are the work of Doge, which has been tearing through agencies looking for suspected waste. No official tally of firings has been released, but the list stretches into the thousands and to nearly every part of the country. More layoffs are expected as Doge continues its work. Eric Anderson, 48, of Chicago, was still absorbing the shock of being fired from his National Park Service job as a biological science technician when he came across his aunt's social media post celebrating the Doge cuts. The gist, Anderson said, was, man, it sure is great seeing all this waste being knocked off. He grows angry thinking about it. Do you think I'm waste? He says, his voice rising as he recalls the post. There are a lot of people out there that are hurting right now that are not waste. Erica Stubbs, who is working as a forestry technician with the U.S. Forest Service in Boulder, Colorado, is avoiding social media after seeing hate for federal workers. Though most people in her life have been supportive since she was fired, some have made passing comments about the necessity of eliminating jobs like hers. What they tell me is it's just cutting out the waste. the excess spending, that your job's not that important, says 27-year-old Stubbs. I'm not saying it's the most important job in the world, but it's my job. It's important to me. Social media is teeming with posts reveling the layoffs and urging Doge fire more. In a fiercely divided country, many saw the cutbacks through their own political lens. One man's devastation, it turns out, can be another man's delight. Riley Ratcliffe, who was working as an aquatic ecologist at Lake Mead National Recreation Area in Nevada, was buoyed that his firing led so many friends and relatives to reach out, offering to pass his resume along, call their congressman, or even help with his mortgage. Mixed with that, though, has been the vitriol. When his firing made the local news, a Facebook posting of the story led to a storm of comments deriding him and championing the layoffs. One person called Riley, who is 36 and holds a PhD, a glorified pool boy whose job nearly anyone can do. Even some of Ratcliffe's friends paired their expressions of consolation for Ratcliffe with support for cutting jobs they contended were unnecessary government bloat. Hey, I'm sorry you lost your job, but I think we really need to cut out some of this waste in the government, Ratcliffe said. One of his friends texted him saying he supported Doge aims. He basically said, "We've got to do this. We've got to rip off the band aid." What stings most, Ratcliffe says, is the contention that people like him were lazy and worthless, collecting big paychecks for meaningless work. It's really hurtful for the president to insinuate that you don't exist or that your job consisted of sitting at home doing nothing and cashing the paycheck, he says. I like to see him sifting through spiny naiad in 120-degree weather looking for parasitic snails. He's the one that goes golfing on the government dime. I don't even know how to golf. Trump has spent the government has spent millions of dollars flying Trump from DC to Mar-a-Lago. Millions, and he's only been in office since January 20th. That is waste. The fact that we're giving Elon Musk $8 million a day for his endeavors and his businesses, but these people that are making $60,000 a year, $80,000 a year, I don't know how much they're making. They're the ones that are wasteful, not people like Leon Scum and Donald Trump, who's going golfing. Please make that make sense. These people just want to work and go do things like buy food and pay for their rent. And their friends and family are celebrating it. It makes no sense to me, except to admit or to continue to say that MAGA, this is a cult. Why are you celebrating your own friends and family getting canned? It makes no sense. But when we say that they're a cult, that is the reason why.